So, David, you were saying that the economists, when the yield curve inverted, said ignore it. You said don't ignore it. And you also said that I think that the economists were also saying when the yield curve was steepening, pay attention to it. Is that right?
Well, it is actually the best leading indicator that there is, the interaction between long-term interest rates and short-term interest rates. So, Catherine, we have to just understand here that 85% of the time the yield curve is positively sloped. Only 15% of the time is it inverted. And anybody who's taken a CFA course would be able to tell you, well, the time value of money would dictate that long-term rates should be above short-term rates. So if you're in the markets, in any sort of market right now, I think we have to understand we are in an abnormal environment where the yield curve is
Hmm.
inverted and inverted by a lot. It's the bond market's way of saying that the central banks have gone too far and that an economic contraction phase is coming. The lags are long and variable. They could be as short as 6 months. They could be as long as 24 months. That's how you can drive a Mack truck through that. But the message is unmistakable. There's never once, not once in the post World War II experience has the Fed tightened policy into an inverted yield curve and we escaped without a recession. That's never happened. So this is
Hmm.
actually an iron, as much as there's a no-brainer ironclad call on the, God forbid, dare I say the word recession, it's staring
Hmm.
us in the face. Okay, whether it's a Q3, Q4 story, tell you the truth, I don't know. But is it going to be here in the next year? It'd be really weird and a break with history
Okay.
if it didn't come.
So, David, let me ask you this then. Having said that, you have the BOE raising rates this morning. The Fed had a hawkish pause or hawkish skip. The BOC, and I want to get your take on the BOC raising rates here in Canada and what that might mean for our economic outlook. If a recession is coming, I guess should the next question be not the timing of it, but perhaps how bad will it be?
The yield curve in Canada is even more inverted than it is in the United States. And we have this illusion of prosperity because we have population growth via the most aggressive immigration policy on record, almost 2% population growth. I think only Iceland has stronger population growth than Canada. On a per capita basis, the economy here is flat to negative for people that think that, whoa, look at how great the economy is. And again, Bank Canada policy will operate its way through lags, as it will in Europe, as it will in the United States. And
Hmm.
how bad is it going to be? I don't see as many glaring imbalances that are going to cause a big peak to trough decline. So I'm not looking for a huge contraction in GDP. What I'm concerned about, though, is how long it's going to last. I'm more concerned about the duration. I'm more concerned about the
Hmm.
fact that we're going to be just walking in purgatory. Um, and that's the problem. The problem is that because these central banks have become so strident and are treating 2% inflation as this holy grail objective immediately, that they're going to be very slow to react to the deteriorating economic conditions. And that's my big problem. It's not so much how steep will the decline be, it's more about how long is the recession going to be. This could last into
Hmm.
2025, the way looking at the reaction function of these central banks. They put
Hmm.
this ridiculous 2% target. And we
Yeah.
should get there over time. But I think it's partly hubris and guilt, and that they missed they had transitory, and now they're trying to correct one mistake for another mistake. My big concern is that, and this is where you get into the long nature of the recession, is that they're going to be so bloody slow to react to the
Hmm.
declining economy. Inflation, after all, inherently is a lagging indicator. And these central banks are doing what? And they're getting political cover. People in the media, people on Bay Street, Wall Street are bowing down to this holy grail of the 2%. Nobody's taken on these central banks and saying, you should be operating policy looking at leading indicators. And all you're doing,
Hmm.
labor market here, your inflation, these are the two laggiest of the lagging indicators. And these are the central banks
Hmm.
are focused on lagging indicators. And that's when you get into not so much the peak to trough decline in GDP, but that this thing could last multiple quarters.
Hmm. And that's such an interesting perspective in terms of the time lag because, I think people really then have to prepare differently, whether it's protecting their portfolio or even just thinking about their opportunities. I mean, right now, the labor market looks so strong. looks. I don't know that you totally agree with that. But we have to think if you're in a certain bad position, the economy is for an extended period of time. What does that really mean for us? And I always think about how do we prepare and how do we plan and protect. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.